After 2 terms of Ronald Reagan's conservatism, California voters who elected Jerry Brown governor last year were expecting several changes in state policy. However, after several months in office, Brown has surprised many of those voters, particularly in the area of fiscal responsibility. ABC's Dick Shoemaker has a report.
Campaigning for governor last year, Democrat Jerry Brown said if elected, he would bring a new spirit to state government. The old ways would be out. So he was elected, replacing Republican Ronald Reagan, who didn't run for a 3rd term. Many people thought now Brown would change Reagan's tight fiscal policies, like giving the University of California more money. They were wrong.
People always say money. Give us more resources. Give us more planning, more experts. Well, I would only cite the Vietnam War. The other side had less resources, less planning, less experts, less PhDs, and they won.
Jerry Brown has surprised many Californians by asking for sacrifice and belt-tightening, to do more with less. He said he personally won't live in this $1 million governor's mansion now under construction. Instead, Brown saved the state money by moving into a 6th-floor apartment in a building near the Capitol. And no limousine either. Instead, Jerry Brown uses a 1974 Plymouth. Many people don't know what to make of Jerry Brown. Jerry Brown tells them he doesn't understand most politicians.
There's a lot of rhetoric, and I read all the politicians' press releases from New York to California, and I've yet to see a lot of good, new, positive ideas.
Brown's style is to stay late at the state capitol, sometimes working 15 hours a day. He has upset conservatives by eliminating the state's oil depletion allowance, and he's upset liberals by cutting back on welfare aid. Brown avoids Democratic fundraising dinners. He says he can get more done by working behind his desk. Brown's father was governor of California, but not many know what kind of governor his son is going to turn out to be.
I assume that will emerge, and it is over time, what kind of a person I am, what kind of a person are you? Knowing yourself is a task for a life, and I am trying to call people's attention to the realities and wake them up before it's too late. And if that's an enigma, so be it.
It is hard to pin a label on Jerry Brown. Reporters who cover the Capitol regularly say the one thing you don't want to do is try and predict what Jerry Brown will do next. Dick Shoemaker, ABC News, in Sacramento.
Jerry Brown comes onto the national political scene mostly as an unknown, but he's governed California for 16 months, and Murray Frompson has a report on his performance.
What has Jerry Brown done as governor? Not much, say his critics, to which his admirers say that's the whole idea. For Jerry Brown talks about limits, limiting growth in the nation's most populous state, limiting money to pay for freeways, schools, and social services. He's confounded many who thought him a free-spending liberal by holding a tight rein on the state's budget. His current spending plan, $12.6 billion, 5% higher than last year, compared to average increases of roughly 12% during Ronald Reagan's administration. Brown has trimmed dozens of programs, fired several hundred state employees, and stuck to his pledge not to raise taxes.
I'm a little tight in some of my budgets. You've heard about that. Well, that's not because I'm conservative. It's because I'm cheap.
But some Brown watchers say his budget hold-down is one of his few major accomplishments.
Other than that, in terms of laundry list of bills and programs to go to the legislature, he's been, at least by comparison to other governors, been very deficient. But Jerry Brown takes the attitude that we don't need a lot of programs. We don't need a lot of solutions. Government ought to cool it for a while.
Brown also pushed hard to cool off the state's farm labor troubles, winning passage of a bill to guarantee farm workers bargaining rights and a secret ballot in union elections. But the Brown compromise backfired in the legislature, where growers and conservative Democrats blocked funds to implement the bill. And now union organizer Cesar Chavez is campaigning to get a measure on the November ballot, asking voters to restore the funds. Brown questions the priorities of the state university system and vows that he'll refuse to authorize more money for adult education. But on several other major issues, he's been hard to pin down. He has not committed himself on a bill that would protect California's coastline from overdevelopment. And despite heavy pressure, he has not yet taken a stand on Proposition 15, the controversial measure on the June ballot regulating safety systems at nuclear power plants in California. Both critics and some admirers think he avoids identifying himself with tough issues.
I guess he's so popular for the same reasons that Jimmy Carter is popular. He's not had to take, at least so far as people are aware, specific positions on a lot of issues.
The governor is criticized, too, for reserving almost all decision-making to himself, a trait that has caused some appointees to quit in frustration. Still, Brown is riding high in California, more popular in the polls than his predecessor, Ronald Reagan, or Reagan's predecessor, Pat Brown, Jerry's father. And though he's unorthodox, refusing to live in the governor's mansion or use a limousine, some say he's very much a political animal.
Well, obviously he's different from a traditional politician. You know, you don't go riding around on Plymouths and going to prayer meetings and retreats and eschewing fancy mansions on the American River. And you can't say in the light of that he's like every other politician. But he knows the art of the old politics. He practices that art, however skillfully hidden. He practices it quite well.
And if you help me, I'll go to Washington and we'll start signing some things that'll make a difference for this country.
So now Jerry Brown has his eye on the White House, saying it's time for people like him to run the country. It's not a new idea. His sister says he started talking about being president when he was 6 years old. Murray Fromson, CBS News, Sacramento.
And that's the way it is. Wednesday, May 19th.